we have the oversight committee that has been dropping things as they go, and therefore we never quite know when things are going to push further. There's also been talk about potentially having Prince Andrew go and give evidence, but I don't think there's any way to really force him to do that. So that seems very unlikely. But certainly, I think that it's a live story in America.
The Times and Sunday Times Washington editor Katy has woken up and joins me now around a year on from the re-election of Donald Trump to talk about the president's talks with China's Premier Xi, amongst other things. He got on. Good morning, Katy. Got on very well with Xi, didn't he?
He did. He gave it 12 out of 10, which is quite good by Donald Trump standards. But he does also have a habit after meetings of being very optimistic and very high on the positivity. If you think about, phone calls with Vladimir Putin and so forth, where he'll be,
Yes.
he's a great guy, and then maybe a few days later starts to reconsider that.
Yes, indeed. And then only later do we find out that actually nothing really material has been agreed. Has anything material been agreed this time?
Well, there have been some things that have been agreed, and I think because this was, in a way, a high stakes or at least a very high profile meeting because they hadn't met for such a long time. If you think about, Trump's second term, for example, the first, there was an effort to make sure there are things in place, and there are also big issues hanging around on trade. So Donald Trump was heralding a concession on soybeans, saying this is great for American farmers. I think on rare earth minerals, that's probably been the biggest development. And then also you have a situation where there's been an easing to a degree on the tariffs. So I think both sides, China and America, can claim progress here. I think the question is, how does this, deal last in time? Is it a brief pause? And is the administration then able to deliver the finer points now the meeting's over?
Yeah, and moving away from the Chinese, America's also considering renewing nuclear testing, isn't it? This comes in response to fairly bellicose statements from Russia and their unveiling of the Poseidon missile, which can cause radioactive tsunamis and everything, which we'll be coming to later. What's the mood there in Washington regarding nuclear weapons?
I wouldn't say it's a topic that is dominating the conversation because I think people who don't like Donald Trump have taken it as an example that he is, risky. And you've had experts warning that if America starts doing this, and as you mentioned, Russia does, and so then it's going to tip the scale, raise the risk of another world war, because people aren't expecting this from America. But then you have those on the MAGA side who think, well, perhaps this is just a sign of American might, and Donald Trump once again showing he's a strong leader, and look what he's done on the world stage recently. So it seems to kind of currently fall into quite political tribal grounds. I think what is quite interesting is when you go back to the election, which is nearly a year ago, this is one of the things that was mentioned, nuclear testing. And there was a moment in the campaign, I think, when Donald Trump said, why are people suggesting I would do this? Suggesting he wouldn't do it. Obviously, in the year that's passed, something has happened to change his mind. But I think perhaps this is more the sense of, if the countries like Russia and so forth are doing it, do you meet them where they are to show that America is not scared and just as serious? I suspect that's some of the thinking. As to whether he actually does it, I think is another thing entirely.
Well, indeed. Now, obviously, the big story over here is what's happened to the artist formerly known as Prince Andrew. But there's more to come out in the US about Epstein, isn't there? And which could implicate Prince Andrew himself.
Yeah, well, the Epstein over here is a rolling story, and we have the committee. So we have the oversight committee that has been dropping things as they go, and therefore we never quite know when things are going to push further. There's also been talk about potentially having Prince Andrew go and give evidence, but I don't think there's any way to really force him to do that. So that seems very unlikely. But certainly, I think that it's a live story in America where the you know obviously at the moment we have a situation where the government is shut down, but there have been efforts by the Democrats to try and push the story on. They will often accuse the Republicans of blocking things for fear of embarrassing Epstein information coming out. The president might not want there. The president changes his line on this, but a lot saying, "Oh, people are bored of Epstein." But certainly over here, I think we're expecting there to be many more twists and turns in it.
Yeah, I bet there will. And now, just very briefly, could you tell us a little bit about your piece in the Sunday Times tomorrow about 1 year since the election of Donald Trump?
Yes, so I think as of next Tuesday, it'll be 1 year since that result came through. And obviously, you then have the pause, that time in Mar-a-Lago, where they were all working out their appointments. But in it, I'm looking at how, you know, some readers will be horrified, some will be delighted, but really, in many ways, those around Trump think the MAGA revolution is just getting started. And in order to be one of the most impactful presidents, you know, often people will say you need 12 years, 3 terms. It doesn't have to be you per se, I'd like to point out. So Donald Trump said, for example, this week that he doesn't think he can run in 2028. But the point is, how do you keep the MAGA flame alive? And I think to really ensure this is a permanent project, there's a feeling you have to, you know, have at least one more term of Trump's party in some way. So how they plan to do that and how they've been doing that up to this date, because I would just say briefly, the one thing in this second term that I think is the most obvious, both from critics and fans of Trump, is just he's a lot more purposeful and he's got a lot more done than in the first term, which was much more chaotic. He's come in with a plan this time.
Brilliant. And you can read Katy Balls in the Sunday Times tomorrow with a digital subscription via thetimes.com.
What did you talk about with Prime Minister?
The deal with China is going to be wonderful. I think it's going to be long lasting. I got really along with President Xi very well, as you saw. You were there. Many of you were there. And I think it's great. I think it's great. I think it's really good. We have numbers coming to our farmers that the farmers have never seen before from China. Our farmers are very happy. I suggest that they go out and buy larger tractors and more land. Okay? We want larger tractors and more land because nobody's ever seen anything like it. I've given China great incentives to hold down the fentanyl, get rid of it ideally. You know, a lot of people don't know it's used as an anesthesia, it's used as a lot of things. A lot of good things happen, but unfortunately when it's developed a certain way, a lot of bad things happen. Because a lot of people would say, well, why is it made? I mean, it's made for a lot of good purposes, but it also has some very bad purposes when you design it a certain way and people can take it and design it. So China's working very hard on that. I really believe that, and they have an incentive. I'd love to get rid of the extra 10%. I put a 20% penalty on. I had a great conversation about it with President Xi yesterday, and I'd love to get rid of the other. As soon as we see that, we'll get rid of the other 10%. Other than that, we haven't cut the tariffs at all with China. But we're going to have a great relationship with them, I think, for a long period of time. If we have a smart president, we'll have a great relationship. We don't have a smart president, which is also a very strong possibility, then we won't have a great relationship. But China is, the meeting with China was incredible. The meeting with Japan, incredible.